grew up in a very creative family. Most of my family is musical background. And so I was kind of born in a kind of a creative environment. My mother was very supportive. I found out that I really liked drawing a lot, and I graduated from El Rancho High School. I went through the whole system there, and that's where I started. Well, I think in practical sense, probably my freshman or sophomore year in college. I knew I had always wanted to be an artist. I didn't know what the application at all. I was very naive. And it took my freshman and sophomore year to realize that I actually could make a career out of things that I love to do. I didn't know how to define it. And so my first 2 years were my awakening creatively. So I would say I was probably 19, 20 years old when at first the impulse really became a possibility. I started out primarily as a figurative painter, and I had extensive classical training in working with the figure. Richard Oden and John Lincoln were probably my two most important mentors over at Long Beach State. They were both excellent draftsmen and very creative and very demanding, which I needed at the time, or some real discipline and inspiration at the same time. And I took that kind of influence and applied it to my teaching and other areas of my life. So my evolution is kind of a lifelong evolution, still dealing with rhythm and motion, which was in my drawing, and then adding light in my painting, which reflected in the color. And even though my subject matter might vary from landscape to abstract to figurative to combinations of the both of them, that's the one consistency, is the idea of rhythm and light and how we perceive our world through those things. And when I say rhythm and movement, I don't always mean at high speeds. Sometimes things evolve in a slow gestation, and you see things evolve slowly. Sometimes they come very rapidly. Sometimes my inspirations and my response to that inspiration are immediate. Sometimes I work on a piece for maybe a year. I'll put it away, pull it out, and so forth. So I think overall, even though my styles might vary, my styles come about because of what is needed. And at this point in my life, I am really going much more towards pure color and movement in more an abstract way. Even though my sound foundation and drawing and painting and composition, etc., are the foundations, I've learned to use those to spring myself out in a way. It's the old saying, if you know rules, then you can break them. And that has been my modus operandi for a long time. It's when I need to change, all I tell myself is, what's the worst that can happen? You start a new painting, or do you stay and play it safe? And for me, playing it safe means getting in a rut. And sometimes we play it too safe. Through my art, it's given me an opportunity to reach out and try new things, not worrying about what the current fashion is, the current style, because that's so elusive. It can change from year to year, from decade to decade, and I don't concern myself with that. I try to find in myself universal connections to my fellow man. Over the last 5 years, we have been going up to Seattle. We have friends that live in Gig Harbor, just out in the Puget Sound area. And I was fortunate enough, they took us to the Glass Museum in Tacoma, where I had seen the artist Chihuly in art magazines, of course, in 2x4 photos if I was lucky to get that big, usually 1x2 photos. But seeing them in full scale and seeing the process made just blew me away. And then as we go in succeeding years, I start seeing not only Chihuly's in galleries, but I start seeing the offspring of the influence of large-scale glass and how light goes through it. And to me, it was the things that I love, because the refractive part of light and light going through it causes immediate motion and movement. And it's abstract, but at the same time, it's from an object that we can identify. From there, I started becoming aware of the shots that you have seen having to do, my newest work having to do with the Hubble shots and taking us out into space and showing us that the world is so immense and so changing that our little, well, it's not insignificant, but our little small world that we love to be safe in and make political decisions and get all fired up about in the large picture is relatively insignificant. And when I saw the Hubble shots, and as the probes went out of orbit after they were used and did their mission, what they're sending back now is for me very profound. The idea of this immense galaxy and then zeroing in on one tiny star, and then that opens up into additional galaxies. I'm reminded of the Buddhist saying that says, we are all in the field of limitless possibilities. I really like that phrase because I see all of us never really truly trying to tap that. We restrict ourselves by the way we approach things. And then maybe that's part teacher that's still in me. But I believe that's where wisdom comes as opposed to just pure knowledge. And so my work specifically is learning to challenge myself instead of the tried and true figurative work that I had done previously and been known for, exploring movement that is purely abstract and pure color. I started with my water series, which led up to things. Water is kind of immutable and constantly moving and so forth and changing. And to be able to capture moving water as well as still water, and then looking at glass, which is actually an aspect of water, just in a different state, you realize the connections about things. So science has also played a huge influence in my learnings and my awareness. So that's where I am today. Today I am working with an abstract concept of moving and reducing elements. And so I work a lot from memory. I find memory is it removes the anecdotal. And that's what I'm about. And that's where my work is going, removing the anecdotal and trying to get to the thing that throbs and is alive in whatever I look at.